Welcome to our first episode of Tiger Takes. We're so excited to have former Clemson football player and student Mac Lain with us today. I'm Gia, and then everybody else.
I'm CJ.
I'm Lauren. I'm
Um, da
Keegan.
Dallas.
Sorry.
And just to give a little background of who he is and what he does. So I believe you've won two ACC championships with Clemson football. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yep. And he works closely with ESPN and ACC Network, focusing on college football analytics. Also co-host of the Gramlich and Mac Lain show with Kelly Gramlich. Also the new Mac and Murray CFP show with Aaron Murray and the AC Huddle covering all things ACC football. So Eric, thank you for being here and taking the time to talk with us
Yeah,
today.
thank you guys. It's so fun to talk with you.
Oh
Excited
yeah.
and honored to be the first guest on your podcast and excited to jump into a bunch of different things today.
Yeah, and so I think to start, we would love for you to just maybe distinguish and outline like what it is exactly that you do. We know that you have a lot of diverse responsibilities and roles, and so we would be curious to know what exactly it is that you do. What are you tasked with on a day-to-day basis, especially in season as an analyst, co-host, being on social media, all the above.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you differentiated the seasons there because it is
Yeah.
different, with the responsibilities and things going on. So again, thank y'all for having me. So basically, I am a college football analyst, and so I get to talk about football as my job, which is great and a real blessing and something that when I was sitting in y'all's shoes, I never would have thought of, right? Just being a offensive lineman, a former student, at Clemson. There was no way that I was thinking TV would be something that I was A, interested in, and then B, ever get an opportunity, to do. But here we are. And, I'm going into my eighth football season this coming fall, which is crazy. Just makes me feel old. And I don't like that. This past season was my 10th year out, which is crazy.
Wow.
To think about, and time is just truly flying by. It's sickening, it really is. But yeah, so during the season, we actually just kind of changed and modified our show a little bit on ACC Network last year to where, we're not tied to prime time because that's what we were for our entire iteration of the ACC huddle is, we would be surrounded by that primetime game, whatever the night game for ACC Network was. So that's why the few times I got to come to Clemson, it was against an FCS team or a G5 team.
Yeah.
That's the only time that we could get Clemson on the ACC Network. Well, now we have shifted that, which I think was such a great move by our bosses and our personnel, involved with those, decisions to where we go to the biggest ACC game. So if that's Clemson LSU, if that's Miami Florida State, if that's Clemson Florida State, whatever it is for that weekend, we'll be there and we'll be on campus. And golly, we saw such great, responses. It took a little bit of time, but all things do. Game day didn't just become game day. It took
Yeah.
years for it to get to this final product that we see each and every Saturday morning. And I'm hoping that's the same for us. So we got about 4 or 5 weeks in. And man, we just started having unbelievable crowds, having people showing up, signs, a bunch of students, which I think that's the next step. Is for us to have students show up to that because, as you guys know, y'all bring unbelievable energy and passion and so much fun, to have you guys out there. So that was really fun. Each and every weekend we would travel, to that game, and then we follow teams in the postseason. So, unfortunately this year, but also very fortunate. The Miami Hurricanes were the only team in the field for the ACC. So we got to go with them. Everywhere that they went, we went. And that was incredible, just to go on that run all the way to the national championship, which funny enough was at their house, in Miami in their home stadium. So really, really fun year. That's kind of the stuff you see on TV. That's kind of the highlights and the big stuff that goes on there. The things you don't see is me literally sitting right here on this TV behind me, watching film, watching tape, studying, and it's so much different from when I was a player and when I was a student athlete, because we would just watch the team we were playing, and I'm going to know everything about that one team. Well, now I have to watch everybody and know what everybody's doing, and it's so much more, and it's just different, the way you approach, but it is a lot. I tell people, and they're a little bit shocked by this. I watch way more film now than I ever did as a player, which is just because it's more teams that I'm covering. It's, different things that we're looking at. As you mentioned, my podcast, I do 6 of those a week, three each,
Wow.
which is a lot. So
Wow.
it's a lot of different content and product going out there. The good thing is both of my co-hosts are also parents. I have a beautiful 3.5-year-old baby girl that my wife and I, are raising. And so everyone understands time management and schedules and flexibility. And we try to find different times to, knock all of those things out, on top of production calls, production meetings. And I'll do a bunch of radio sprinkled in there as well. So it is a lot and it's super fun. Don't get me wrong, but it is a
Mhm.
ton. And you just have to be on top of it with your time management and your scheduling. And that's why I was so grateful, Gia, you sent that invite because listen, people ask me to
Yeah.
do stuff and I get two or three things a day and sometimes it's on
Mhm.
the same day. And well, this person didn't send me an invite, so I say yes to something else, and then you're double booked and it's a disaster. So
Yeah.
it's super helpful when people are also on top of it and have their schedules synced up just because it's so much going on.
Yeah, was it challenging like when you first started balancing all of these different things?
It was because there's no blueprint. There's
Yeah,
no practice. That there's no
you just gotta
book.
learn as you
You
go.
just have to learn,
Yeah,
and obviously in school you try to pick up various things, but like right now, y'all don't know what really is important. You don't know what
yeah,
aspects of your studies is going to help you the most just because you don't know what you're going to be doing.
hmm
You don't know what,
exactly. Yeah,
piece you try to glean from that. So, I would just tell you to be ready, when you do
yeah,
get to the real world and just try to think of the most practical things is always hard work. Like I would
hmm
challenge y'all to wherever you end up, wherever you go in, obviously right now, you can control that. You can control, I'm going to outwork everybody in this classroom. I'm going to outwork everybody in this major. I'm going to outwork everybody in this school to be different, right? Because people see that
hmm
and they know that. And when you show up to do something, that preparation, A, will make that day easier because you've worked for that moment, whether that's an interview or job, whatever. You've worked towards that. And then B, it will separate you once you get there because you're going to be better than everybody. It's just one of those
yeah,
things to, truly lean on that, the time management thing, the organization, like super practical things that I know you guys are dealing with now that it's just exacerbated when you get to the real world because it's money, it's time, it's
hmm
opportunities that can truly be hindered if you're not on top of it.
oh yeah. Well, what would you say your favorite place that you traveled was throughout like
Yeah.
campuses and all that?
Always coming home. It's always, I love Clemson with my whole heart, man. And anytime I get to come back to that. But outside of Clemson, it was really fun going to Florida State this year for a couple of different reasons. Jimbo Fisher is on our desk with us, and he coached there for y'all that might not
Hmm
remember. Won a national championship back there in 13. I played against him when he was coaching there. And he left there, and it was kind of a nasty, messy little situation and he didn't really know how he was going to be perceived back. He didn't know how he was going to be received by the fans. And, I just kind of asked him beforehand, like, will you be emotional at all? He's like, no, 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 like none of that. And he was crying his eyes out. It was awesome. Like
Really?
he was so happy because he has so many memories there and his kids grew up there and he grew up there. He's
Yeah.
great friends with the Bowdens and they were kind of his, mentors and father figures and things of that nature. And so, it was a lot. And just seeing that from like an outside, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. From just an outsider's perspective, to watch somebody else, go through all those emotions was really cool. And then it was a pretty good game. The atmosphere is great. So that was a fun one. And then maybe my second, favorite was being, with Tony Elliott, who was my offensive coordinator, a former Clemson coach who's now the head coach of Virginia when they beat Virginia Tech to clinch, the ACC championship, to beat them for, the first time in a long time. Um, that was a cool moment. Again, just as a third party, just as somebody
hmm
who, shouldn't even really be there type of thing, to see the emotion, to think of myself, when we won our first ACC championship, when we clinched for the first time and what that means and just all the hard work, just because obviously I have a different vantage point than most because I've did it. Those were two really, really cool moments.
Yeah, that sounds really
That's
cool.
awesome.
It's crazy. All right,
All
do y'all want to
right,
move on to
next.
number two?
Sorry.
Yeah, go
I was
ahead,
just gonna say
Keegan.
next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do we want to talk about just next? Is there anything, I mean, while you were at Clemson, just either on the education side or just playing football for the school that kind of helped your career go from what it was maybe back then or what you were doing after college to now
Yeah,
or
I
anything like that?
think the I think the I guess it's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. It is what it is. So I was a health science major, and both my parents were in the medical field. I wanted to be a doctor of some sort, pretty much my whole life outside of athletic ambitions and things of that nature. And I got to midway through my sophomore year, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in school another 8 years. Like this is crazy. This is great and it's super fun. I don't know if that's really for me. So I kind of switched my focus from health science to kind of like a pre-business focus with health science. So I didn't change majors, but I changed, kind of concentrations from less of a practical, kind of medical route to more of a professional route. So I was able to, sneak in some of the business classes and things of that nature, which was a nice background. But also when I got my master's, like that's where I felt like, okay, you're 4 years out of high school most of the time. Probably a little bit more mature. You kind of have a better grasp on life and what you want to do, and you've experienced enough to really know. So that's why I'm such a big proponent of grad school because you really know like what you want to do, or at least you think you do at that point. And so I went in and got my master's degree while I was still playing in athletic leadership and administration, and that's what even still today. I mean, I would love to step into that at a blink of an eye to be an athletic director, to be in athletics, just because I love, what it did for me, the opportunity, what it is. It's changing very rapidly at a very rapid pace. And that interests me. That's something that I think is, really fascinating. And so that is where kind of you don't have to necessarily know right away, but you hope you figure it out, and you hope that you glean some of those things and some of those courses to what it is what you want to do. Now there's some people that are super locked in, right? They want to be a lawyer, they want to be a doctor, they want to be this and that, where that's very relevant, and you have to have all of that. And there's certainly others that are in that same format. So I think just thinking of it that way, and certainly understanding that grad school is such a great option and just buys you more time, more experience, things of that nature. But then as a player, and I think this can be applicable, for you guys, not just because I was a football player, but anytime I interacted with anybody, whether that was a big time radio station, ESPN, a local beat writer, a student who was writing, I always took those opportunities and thought that somewhere, someone, someday is going to watch this. And this can be a living resume for me. Whether it's any interaction you have or any conversation or networking opportunity that you have, man, just take that to the fullest opportunity and understand this person might hire me one day, or they might know somebody that needs to hire somebody, and I can leave a bigger mark on them that they could reference me without really even knowing me. So that was always a thing for me that, it was every Tuesday for 2 years. I would go and do media, playing football, and I always took that really, really seriously. And I think that's how I got, this job. Because again, I'm an offensive lineman. Nobody cares about the offensive line. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody knows who they are, unless they're bad and mess up, right? Then you know,
Yeah.
then you know their name and you know their number, things of that nature. So I always took those opportunities, not for granted, and knew it was something that could help me down the road.
Is there something that people misunderstand about your industry or the work that you guys put in behind the scenes?
Yeah, great question. I think that a lot of people just think it's glitz and glam. Like there's there's a lot with it, and it is cool. Don't get me wrong. Like what I do is amazing. Get paid to travel the country to talk football. Unbelievable. Not real life. Like I wake up every day, I pinch myself and say, please don't wake up. Keep dreaming if we're dreaming. But there's a ton that goes into it, and the sacrifice of being away from your family. I mean, I'm gone during the football season Thursday through Sunday every week, no matter what. And you miss a lot. I had to leave Christmas night. Like that's hard, especially when you have a little baby. And so, there's different things of that nature that, I just don't think people truly think about. You don't have weekends. I mean, I haven't been to a Clemson football game in 8 years, for fun, to sit back and be a fan and, relax. I haven't, sat on the couch with my dad or my brother and watched football in 8 years. I mean, that's tough, because that's something that I really love. And again, that's minuscule problems. I mean, it's not real, again, what I'm saying, but it's something, and it is a sacrifice. And, I think the time of watching film and wanting to be good, and, it's, I'll say probably a harder thing that I will go into later in life as my, child grows, is the fact that I'm here, I'm home, but I have to go watch film. Like I've got to go do this, baby. Daddy has to go to work, and she's not going to understand that because I just walk, down the hall or outside to the office here. She won't grasp that, but it'll be something that eventually we'll have to walk through. And then the travel. I always share this on different podcasts and things, because again, we have a fine amount of time where we have to get certain places, and if you're doing multiple, like basketball people do multiple things in a week. There's a lot of 3 a.m. alarm clocks. Got to get to the airport in the frozen tundra. Oh, my flight just got delayed. It's chaos. Like that. There's a lot of that, kind of in the industry as well. That again, it's first word problems for sure, and I know that. But it is problems that you have to solve.
All right. What would you advise to prospective students wanting to take a similar career path?
Yeah, I think, man, the world is so different right now, right? Like everybody can have a microphone, everybody can have a podcast, everybody can have a YouTube channel. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean it positively in the fact that you should start something. Like there's so much practical, real world, experience to be had that you can just do on your own. And who knows what will happen with it? It could explode. I mean, creators are everywhere, right? And all the different things with social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, YouTube certainly. There's really no excuse to not be practicing at a minimum. I'm not saying everybody's going to blow up and be the most successful thing, but at least you can be comfortable in front of a camera. Like I'm not looking at the screen talking to you guys. I'm staring at a camera and there's a microphone in front of me, and that's hard. That's not necessarily fun to do because I want to sit and look and talk and all these different things. But those are practical things that you can get reps with right now, and you can start that, and you can learn how to have conversations, how to be able to introduce people, how to seamlessly not just, and I'm not saying we're doing that now, don't get me wrong, not just look
Yeah.
at a sheet of paper that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions and ask them that way. Instead, you're listening and you can just, okay, he talked about this. We were going to go this way, but we're going to stay here because I'm interested here. You can practice all those things. And so I would really encourage creating a channel, creating a platform, and interview friends. Interview, if you can, players. You guys are at a school right now that has great success in a lot of different sports. That's there. And guess what? There's a lot of people that aren't the star quarterback that don't have a microphone or don't get a microphone, put in front of their face that you can go through the right channels and you can give them a platform. And so I think there's that out there, certainly, if this is what you want to do in regards to being in sports media. And I would also encourage, like, I know, everybody wants to sit in front of the camera, sit in front of the mic. I get that, and it's a really cool part. But there's a lot of jobs that are surrounded in sports media, specifically TV, that still get to travel, still get to go to the games, are still a part, and honestly, the most important part of the show, because without them, whether that's a producer, a director, audio, camera, lighting, all these different things, the show ain't going on if one of those guys doesn't do their job, and gals. So I think another kind of, this goes back to Lauren's question, the misconception. There's so many things involved, with TV other than just the people that you see on the camera.
Yeah, that's what I've thought about. Like, there's so many other aspects of it, which I don't know if I want to be in front of the camera for sure, but like, I'm
Mhm.
glad you said that because there's so many other jobs that you can do,
And
which,
it's vital.
did,
Like, I mean, there's,
yeah,
and what, you know what? I'll tell you this too. We're at a really interesting crossroad right now because the more shows you do on whether that's Sports Center or Get Up or games or whatever, there's a lot of old people on those trucks, man. And guess what? When they move on and retire, we're going to have a void. So,
yeah,
y'all's, kind of class, and I guess a little bit of mine, I'm 10 years older, whatever. Like, there's going to be this weird shift of people have to do that, and people have to want to do that and be good at it because the product might suffer. We might see a really interesting time in television.
yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted
How
to
was it?
ask, sorry,
Oh, you're
really
good.
quick, like, do you think as time goes on, will you ever want to take like a producer behind the scenes type of role
Yeah.
and.
Yeah, I certainly have thought about that just because again, the
Hmm.
more people that you work with, um,
Hmm.
and some people are getting opportunities, some people are established, this and that. I think our company does a fairly good job of, allowing people to maybe sit in a chair that aren't ready, but it's good reps.
Hmm.
But you find different perspectives. And as someone who's been on TV that deals with the problems on the other side of the camera, because let's say let's say I'm sitting here on camera and I'm saying I'm talking about something and video is supposed to come up. Like I say a word and they know video is supposed to come up.
Hmm.
Well, now I'm kind of stumbling. Now I'm kind of, freaking out because nothing's happening, but I'm on camera, so I cannot show that. I
Right.
have to just dance around and
Uh-huh.
try to figure that out. Where the people behind, and maybe it's pandemonium in there. Of course, I haven't been on that side, but they're not dealing with it, right? If I'm directly referencing something, I'm the
Hmm.
one that looks silly, or if the wrong thing, like let's say I'm talking about Duke, and all of a sudden NC State stuff pops up, I look dumb. Like I'm the one that's on TV, and the people at home are like, what the heck is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Instead of someone hit the wrong button or the wrong graphic was ready. So there is kind of the sense of that in the back of my mind. Could I
Hmm.
reverse engineer? How TV is made, and can I think of questions that I, as an analyst, would have wanted to hear, and I think there's something to former players and athletes being on that side too, because most of them are not. Most of them are on TV, but they can direct things, they can produce things maybe like others just couldn't. I think there's a big diversity, possibility there. Like anybody can do anybody's job, but certainly it's something that crosses my mind from time to time.
I
That's
was just gonna
awesome.
ask, how was the hiring process with the ACC network? Like, did they just reach out to you, or did you apply for the job, or what?
That's a crazy question. Great story. Other way around. Crazy question, great story. So when
Yeah,
you look at it, and I think of that process again, as I kind of referenced, I never thought TV was a thing, and I never wanted to be on TV. I never, thought it was ever a possibility. And so I was working in a marketing company with like advertisement, sales, marketing, that represented Clemson. And so any of those things y'all see in the stadium, the ribbon board or the LEDs or the Jumbotron, any sponsored type things, that's what I was doing. I was selling that. And, it was kind of like a real life MBA, which was cool. I was learning business law and all these things, but it was a job and I was selling. And so I was doing that, and kind of with that, we had the rights to the coaches show. We had the rights to the radio shows of pregame, postgame, during game, of Clemson football and other sports as well. And so in my second year, 2.5 years in, we were kind of reevaluating the postgame football show on radio, which before was just this little 30-minute, basically like a scoreboard show. It was this, guy, he would just sit here and say, Furman 26, Wofford 10. And that's all it was. He would
yeah.
just go through the scores of people in the state and, ACC and maybe other relevant schools like South Carolina or whatever. And we were just kind of like, all right, okay, like what do people do after football games? They're stuck in traffic. They're hopefully listening to this show. We've got an opportunity here. So we totally changed it and totally flipped it, into something else. And I became the host of that. And it was really cool. And it was something I'd never done before. And I don't know how much that had to do with it or not, but Clemson went up. This was 2018 when Clemson just absolutely hammered Alabama in the national championship. I get a call, from a guy at ESPN. He says, hey, this is so and so. Would love to meet in person. We do. And, he says there's some opportunity coming at ESPN. We're making the ACC network. We would like for you to be a part of it. And I blacked out. I didn't know what to say. I was
Yeah,
just like,
I
what?
bet.
What are you talking about? Like, this is crazy. And so I guess I said yes, because here we are. We're still doing it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it came about. I mean, it was nuts. It's a total blessing. I don't deserve it. And I try to earn it every day. But that's kind of how it came about. And, it's different now. I would say after being on the inside, especially with on-air talent, like we have a really nice nucleus of people that have been there for quite some time now. Most of us have been together for the duration of this thing. But it is weird. I know they're always looking, and I know they're always evaluating. And, ESPN as a whole, the thing that I wish that we would do better was to do kind of, while people are student internships, but they don't. Everything's post grad.
Yeah,
There's too many applications, there's too many people. So anything that they do from that aspect is always post grad, but it's like 90+%, and maybe I'm wrong on that number, but I think it's close, that if you get the internship, you're also getting a job. So it's a really cool transition type of thing. So anyway, I know you didn't ask that, but yeah, that's the crazy way that I ended up at ESPN.
yeah.
That's
It's really cool.
awesome. All right.
Are there
Well,
other former players on your team, or
Yeah, so EJ Manuel was with us, so he just got elevated. So EJ also played at Florida State, actually under Coach Fisher. So that's kind of cool.
Mm.
That's his guy,
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
pretty
like
cool.
my brother. I mean, he's been amazing. He just got bumped up, so he's with Matt Berry and Joey Galloway. Kind of on ESPN during the season. Eddie Royal is on the desk with me. He was a superstar at Virginia Tech, played in the NFL for 9, 10 years, was a beast. He's a wide receiver. And then I'm trying to think. We have some coaches. We have Coach Mark Richt. He's on the desk. He coached at Georgia and Miami. A guy named Tom Luganbill. He played way back in the day. Coached in the UFL, NFL Europe. Dave Clawson has done some stuff with us. Wake Forest head coach who retired a year ago. That might be it from the football player.
Mm.
God, what's my guy? Bryce Love, who was a beast at Stanford. If you guys remember
Oh
him,
yeah.
he finished second in the Heisman Trophy a
Yeah.
handful of years ago with Christian McCaffrey and the boys. But yeah, it's cool to see everybody. And like big ESPN, there's a ton. There's a ton, obviously, that I
Yeah.
watch and see. But yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
know
cool to see
Darian
everybody.
Rencher, he's been pretty big with his podcast and all that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Have you
yeah,
gotten
it's
the
fun to
chance
see
to be on
Darren do
there?
his thing for sure. Yeah, it's cool and again, a unique space that he created, right? Like it's
Hmm.
not it's interesting how all those things happen.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, G, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. So I think we're all good on questions just related to what you do and everything. So we're going to go into something like a little bit fun that we're going to do
Cool.
every episode. So we call this like flag on the take. And so we're just going to give you like a really random question that's, I guess, widely debated. And we're just going to want your take on it. And we're going to let you
Perfect.
answer first, and everybody can go ahead and answer. So our question for you today is, if you were forced to, would you rather have to live under the sea or in space for the rest of your life, and why?
Wow. Yeah. Can I ask questions with this, or is it just
Go
straight
ahead.
up? Okay, if I live under the sea, like, am I like Little Mermaid? Can I come up for a little bit?
I guess so. It's just hypothetical. I guess you can
Hypothetical.
breathe
All right.
underwater. You
Well,
can do all the
if I
above.
can be, yeah, if I can be Ariel and come up for a little bit, then yeah, for sure. Space
Well,
sounds
why not
miserable.
space?
I just, first of all, your body will start to deteriorate. So that's not good. Like you're going to be dead really soon, probably. Your muscles are going to fade. It's just, we haven't figured out the compensation of how space affects the body quite yet. And I just feel like
Yeah.
it's super boring unless there's like a whole space colony and we have figured this out. I don't know. I guess I like the water. So I'll stay right here on Earth where I
Yeah,
know kind
like
of what to deal with, I guess.
yeah, and I agree with you because I feel like with space, there's just too much unknown and it's a little too isolating. Like I feel like,
Yeah.
the sea, there's some stuff to do. There's people down there.
Yeah,
Like
is
I
this
don't
like Guardians
know.
of the Galaxy? Am I like
I
hopping
can't
around
be in
different
space.
universes? Like, what are we doing?
What are you gonna eat in space? You can't eat there.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Like
I
you're
feel
not
like,
gonna survive.
Do we
it's
all
interesting.
agree on the ocean?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to live in the
Oregon,
ocean.
Dallas, where you going space or ocean, bro?
I'm definitely going ocean for
Are
sure.
you? Okay. Where,
Space is too it's too dark in space. I feel
right.
like
Yeah. I don't know.
it'd
The
be
ocean's dark
and
too, though.
The ocean is
yeah,
dark. The
that
ocean's
is true. That is
scary.
true.
We get
That is
shallow,
true.
Bahamas, you're chilling at the Bahamas underneath the
But
water.
at least I'll get to see like new creatures and stuff. I feel like if I go to space, it's
Yeah,
just like rocks and like stars, I guess.
So,
For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
They might be underwater though. That's the crazy part.
that's facts.
All
yeah.
right. Keegan, do you want to close us off?
Yes. Well, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us. We loved learning about your career and all the different experience that you have. I think it's so cool that you went from just doing, except for Clemson football, and going straight to the ACC and taking such a big role on. And I think it's cool that you especially just have direct firsthand experience with Clemson also, and just a good representation of us and our school. And so we just want to say thank you so much for joining us. We enjoyed talking to you and just
I
hearing
appreciate
you.
that. Yeah, thank y'all so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank
Thank
Give me a
you.
call,
you.
Appreciate you for
Thank
coming on
you.
for us, man.
whenever. Would love
Thank
to
you.
follow up with any of you guys, help any way I can. I appreciate y'all's
Yes,
time.
sir.
Thank you so
Awesome.
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye,
you.
guys.
Yeah.
Have
See
a good
y'all.
one.
Thank you.
You too.
Now we're just going to get into the second segment. We're going to talk about just all of our class material and discuss how kind of like the media has changed and like the way that athletes interact with the fans, like as opposed to like when he played maybe 10 years ago or now.
Mhm. Yeah, and so that goes into chapter 2, and we talked about new media and things like the evolution of fan athlete interaction. We talked about social media and podcasting and things like that, and looking at athlete persona on social media and just developing these relationships, especially through those means. And so I thought it would be good to kind of start this conversation off by just asking a question that was posed to us in class, last week or so. And the question was, is podcasting the next step for athlete media beyond posting on platforms like Instagram or Twitter? And do we feel like podcasting will eventually evolve far beyond the more standard forms that we see of social media and start to enhance these relationships in the sense that athletes are becoming more relatable and accessible? And I think I could kind of start and give an answer of like, I love what podcasting is doing now, especially in enhancing these relationships. I feel like in a sense, we're getting content and more in-depth conversations and experiences and thoughts from athletes that we probably would never get just from a normal Instagram post. And I think it's starting to become to make athletes really more relatable and accessible, and it's helping us to feel interacted in a way that's more connected.
Yeah, I
I can
agree.
definitely,
I agree with that.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that too.
Yeah, I also like the live streams that some players are doing, like
Yeah,
Scatabo and all that.
yeah.
Makes it more entertaining.
hmm
I just feel like with podcasts, they make it most of the time where it's like a comfortable, natural setting, and it just kind
Yeah,
of feels like you're having a one-on-one conversation. I
Yeah.
just feel like
exactly.
with other social media, you're not really getting the full real thing of who the person is. It's kind of just like, oh, this is for like a little brand thing, ad, whatever. You're just getting some kind of just fake image of somebody, and you're not really getting the real thing, who they are.
Exactly.
I feel
Yeah.
If
like
oh, I
I
was
feel
gonna
like
say
podcast.
like
Oh, so yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
I was gonna say like even like streamers inviting like athletes on their streams, you get to see their real selves and not be so tensed up and afraid of what they're gonna say. And the fans seem to really like that because they're just being them and they're opening themselves up more to the public. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the podcast like introduces you to a new side of things. Just to be able to create that deeper connection with the player without directly talking to them, because most of the questions on the podcast are like questions that the general public will have, or like people that are in tune with sports. So I feel like it's a very good option.
And you know what, too? Like to kind of like go to what Dallas said, like because you are an athlete, like how does it feel on the athlete part of that relationship? Like, are you doing podcasts and feel that way? Like things like that. Like, how are you specifically connecting with fans and everything like that?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I feel like every athlete wants to tell their story, wants to
hmm
tell what they've been through or the steps they took to get to where they are.
Yes.
And I mean, prior to podcasts, it felt like that kind of didn't matter. Like the fans just wanted to see like how many points you were scoring, or things like that. So I feel like the podcast is good for the players too, just to be able to express themselves, or
Right.
to even know that people want them to express themselves.
Yeah. And I think with like anything, there's going to be pros and cons to this. And we know that with like parasocial relationships and everything, there's going to be a million and one positive and negative effects. And so I also wanted to ask, like, how does everyone feel regarding these pros and cons? Like, do we enjoy the fact that connections are going to develop a sense of belonging and you can gain motivation or influence from athletes? And could we also agree that there's kind of unappealing terms of it in the sense of like people can become too emotionally involved, or we're dealing with issues like capitalism and it could start to feel like more transactional than authentic, and you're constantly being sold things through paid partnerships and advertising. And I think I could also start this off by saying like I could see both sides to this. Like there is a happy medium. Like I'm a Philly fan. I've been a Philly fan my entire life. Like I grew up 20 minutes from Philly, and obviously the stereotype is that Philly fans are just way too emotionally invested, and like it's true. And, I recently watched like the Saquon documentary that came out on Prime, and like I found a personal sense of connection like with him and his journey coming to Philadelphia, and just like how excited we were to have him, and obviously like how his first season in Philly went and all of that stuff. But I think like on the other hand, like we could see, that emotional involvement that just becomes a little too much. Like if you're a Giants fan, like, they would say like hateful, like terrible things about him because like nobody really knows the half of it. And you don't really know what went on with everything for him to come to Philly. So, I could see that as well. And then just looking at like a capitalistic side, like everything can feel like an advertisement. Like for that documentary, like I think you needed a Prime Video membership, like just to watch it. So I think you lose that sense of accessibility as well, which kind of hinders that relationship as well. And again, starting to feel very transactional. What do
Yeah,
you
I
think?
feel like parasocial relationships are good, but like you have to like realize that like you don't actually know them, and like I don't know,
Yeah,
some people get too like obsessed with it, you know?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing because I mean you can be like a diehard fan, but you have to like realize you don't really know the person.
Yeah,
It's just you just maybe relate to them on some things and agree with them and just like them as like a person, but you don't really have an in-depth or maybe any connection most likely with that person.
hmm
yeah.
And I
I'm
think
just
it
thinking
can
about
make
like, sorry, what did you say?
I think it can make like real life situations like awkward. Like since a person think they or they might know certain things about whoever the person is that's kind of like over a boundary or just things like that, just knowing too much or being too involved.
Yeah, you really do
Yeah,
forget that they
definitely.
are like just regular people with just maybe a higher platform in life, and that's
Yeah.
just what it is.
Well, I think that's good for our first episode. So I guess we can thank everyone for watching, and we'll see everybody next episode.
1, 2,